In this episode, we're going to talk about the Week 13 Sunday games and the surprises and the takeaways from some of the results. Let's talk about it. Last week, I was talking about the Rams being the number one team in the NFC and looking like they're in the driver's seat. So, of course, they head down to Carolina and lose the game to the Panthers 31-28. I mean, the weather may have played a factor in it, but, give the Carolina Panthers a lot of credit. They're fighting for a playoff berth, too, in their division with the Buccaneers, and they did what they needed to do with, the question of Baker Mayfield's health in Tampa Bay, and it's an opportunity for them to grab control of that division. And they beat the Rams team. So if you can beat the Rams, you got to feel confident right now. Like, that's got to propel Carolina in the upcoming weeks as they make this drive for the playoffs. We'll see how the Rams rebound from that. I think they'll be fine, but that was a surprising outcome, I have to admit. San Francisco and Cleveland, not much to talk about. Shedeur Sanders lost his first game starting in front of his home fans. He will be starting this week for the Browns and probably for the rest of the season because they got to see and assess what they have in Shedeur Sanders and what the heck they're going to do in Cleveland at quarterback. But there's not really much to talk about other than that. Myles Garrett, he got another sack on his way to try to break the sack record. So that's something to watch in Cleveland, to see if Myles Garrett can break the all-time sack record. The game turned out the way it should. San Francisco won that game. They need to win that game if they want to be involved in the playoffs. Again, good teams need to beat bad teams, and San Francisco did that this week. Houston and Indianapolis Colts. Houston on a winning streak now, beat the Colts 20-16. Daniel Jones playing with a broken leg. It definitely affected the team. The threat of him not being able to run allowed Houston to key on Jonathan Taylor and slow him down and basically shut him down as much as you can shut down Jonathan Taylor. Their defense is on fire right now. They are playing inspired. Their offense is doing just enough to win. They got C.J. Stroud back. They're battling for that division lead, those two teams, and it's going to be interesting to see how this winds up. But Houston basically made a statement, I think, by beating the Colts this week. Just, again, by optics, the way their teams are playing at the moment, Houston looks like the better team right now. If they were to battle again head-to-head, I think Houston probably wins that game again. So that's an interesting thing to watch, what's going on in Houston. They're getting hot at the right time, and that's a lot of the times the teams that make playoff runs are the teams that get hot in December towards the end of the season, and their confidence is building, and they're not afraid of anybody, and I think Houston's in that boat right now. The Jets once again ruined their draft choice and where they might be ranked to get a number one draft choice last year by beating the Falcons 27-24. Nick Folk became a folk hero, kicking the game-winning field goal in the rain, and nobody on that field wants to lose, but really, for the sake of the franchise, getting another high draft choice is going to do them better than them continuing to win the rest of the season. Yes, they can play spoilers. They definitely put a dent in any playoff hopes Atlanta has, and Atlanta is just looking bad without Michael Penix. Their defense, which is their strength, giving up 27 points to the Jets was a surprise. Going to Tyrod Taylor has proven to be the right choice. So the last 2 weeks, their offense definitely looks a lot better. The wide receiver they picked up at the trade deadline, Adonai Mitchell, had a great game, had a breakout game, and he might be someone to watch, especially if you're playing fantasy football and you got a wide receiver who's injured. I mean, the Jets are not good, and it's hard to trust them to score a lot of points. But in the last 2 weeks, what Mitchell has done for the Jets at wide receiver is something to keep track on and keep note on. And maybe if he's available in your league, in your fantasy league, you pick him up and stash him on your bench and see what happens, because you might need him in those playoff weeks in the fantasy football that are coming real soon. You might need a wide receiver to help get you some points and win your playoff match. So something to watch there. Tampa Bay and Arizona. Arizona, again, continues to lose one-score games. Jacoby Brissett, another fantasy football quarterback you might want to get in your roster because he's putting up lots of points. And they're behind a lot, the Cardinals, so that means they're going to have to throw to catch up. And that makes Jacoby Brissett's stats go up, 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 and he makes him a fantasy relevant and someone you might want to keep an eye on as the fantasy football players approach. Jacoby Brissett is someone you might want to watch. Marvin Harrison Jr. left the game with a heel injury after coming back from having an appendectomy. It was his first game back. He left the game. Not sure if he's going to play this week, but if not, Michael Wilson, who did very well when Harrison was out recovering from his surgery, would be someone to get on your bench because those fantasy football playoffs are coming and you're going to need somebody who can put up some points. And he and Brissett seem to have a good chemistry. So not much to talk about there. Baker Mayfield played with his injured shoulder. Expected that from him. Didn't really expect anything less. They're trying to make a playoff run. Baker Mayfield, you're going to have to kill the guy to get him off the field. Honestly, he's kind of a competitor. I am concerned that Emeka Egbuka, who earlier in the season looked like a shoe-in for the Rookie of the Year, now seems to be invisible and getting almost no catches, no targets in his direction. Maybe the coverage has shifted to cover him as the number one option, and he's just not able to get loose. Godwin is back and seeming to have jumped over him as far as the receiver that Baker Mayfield is looking to. Bucky Irving was back just in the nick of time for Tampa Bay. They're going to need him going forward. Tampa Bay is keeping neck and neck with the Panthers as they battle it out to see who wins that division. That was a close game between Tampa Bay and Arizona. And I feel bad for Arizona. They've lost a lot of games this year by less than one score. They're right on the verge. I've said it a bunch of times this year. They're right on the verge, but they just can't close the deal in these games. Jacksonville continues winning. They trounced Tennessee 25-3. Not much to talk about there other than Jacoby Myers is starting to settle in as wide receiver there. Their tight end Brenton Strange had a good game as well. So Jacksonville continuing to stack wins as they make their playoff push. Miami beat New Orleans 21-17. Neither of those teams are in the playoffs, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about them. Although Taylor Shuck did look good for the Saints, he's starting to settle in and seems like he might be a quarterback. I think he'll be their quarterback next season. The Saints are another one of those teams, much like the Cardinals, who have lost a lot of close games. They battle, but they just can't close the deal. Seattle destroyed Minnesota 26-0. Really nothing to talk about there. Seattle trying to keep pace with the Rams, did what they had to do. Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy was out with a concussion. I joked that Kevin O'Connell was glad that J.J. McCarthy couldn't play so he didn't have to make that decision to sit a struggling J.J. McCarthy. But when you bring Max Brosmer in and who had a terrible game, now you want J.J. McCarthy to come back and try to get this fixed. I feel most bad for Justin Jefferson, who's just one of the best wide receivers in the league. Definitely not this season because of the situation with the quarterback and in Minnesota. I don't know what his contract situation is, but he may be looking to get out of there at the end of this season. Minnesota doesn't look like they're going to do anything but maybe spoil somebody else's playoff party. Aaron Jones got another injury, so Mason might be the running back this coming week. We'll see what happens. McCarthy will be back. I don't even know what to say about that. He came from college where they ran the ball a lot, and my big concern with J.J. McCarthy is he's going to be much like a Sam Darnold or even a Baker Mayfield with the Browns, that the team's going to give up on him because he's struggling to figure it out. But he's very young, and quarterbacks don't necessarily come in and just figure it out in their first season. It's very rare. I can't even really think of any examples of someone coming in their first season. Maybe old-time Russell Wilson, who when in his rookie year got the start for an injury and just played well and, led that team to a lot of victories and a Super Bowl. But it's just like, that's the only example I can think of someone in their first full season. J.J. McCarthy's technically in his second season, but he missed his first season with injury. So it is his first full season, and he's been riddled with injuries this year as well. So I just hope they don't give up on him. He definitely has to go back to the drawing board, and he and Kevin O'Connell need to sit down and figure out what works best for him. But what they're doing right now is not working. Let's see what they can do and see if they can clean things up and get some momentum building towards next season. The Chargers beat the Raiders. Raiders fired their offensive coordinator after the Week 12 game about They only put up 14 points against the Chargers, so it didn't change anything. Ashton Genty still getting hit in the backfield as second he gets handed the ball, so they can't really run. Brock Bowers in that game had one of the most amazing catches I've ever seen, which was great for fantasy purposes, but in real life NFL football purposes, it was nothing other than a great play for the Sports Center top 10 plays and the plays of the week in the NFL. But the Raiders, I don't know. I feel like Pete Carroll might be on the hot seat, firing two coordinators so far. This team is looking lost on offense. Max Crosby's doing what he does on the defense, playing with all his heart and giving his best at all times. But I don't know what's going to happen in Vegas there. I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason. Chargers, Justin Herbert broke his non-throwing hand and had surgery to fix that, and it looks like he's planning to play this coming week. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I imagine there might take more plays from the shotgun and less under center, so it gives him time to get the ball in his hands and control it and make passes or give handoffs out of the shotgun instead of taking the ball under center. So we'll see. The Chargers are winning. They need to keep winning. They look like they're making their playoff push. These December games, I keep saying it, are the most important to build the momentum into January and February. Teams winning in December are usually teams that do well in the playoffs. Speaking of one of the teams winning in December, Buffalo Bills, who have been struggling, beat a Pittsburgh Steelers team who on offense looks lost. They won that game 26-7. Josh Allen, the first half was close, but the final score doesn't make it seem as close as it was in the first half. But watching the game in the first half, I didn't think it was hard to tell who was going to win. It just seemed like if someone made one play, it might turn the tide, and the Bills were the team that did that. They could run the ball in the Steelers. They could throw the ball. Josh Allen rushed for another touchdown. The Bills really needed that win. I'm not feeling watching Buffalo, I'm not feeling like, oh, okay, everything's fixed now. I still think they have a lot to work on. Their offense is still trying to figure things out. Keon Coleman, who had been coach's decision do not play the last couple of games, was back on the field, got a touchdown pass, immediately made an impact. So hopefully he gets his act together so they could use him, because they definitely need wide receivers. Josh Allen needs wide receivers to throw to, and no one's really stood out and tried and taken over that number one wide receiver role. So Coleman, this is your chance. It seems like he might be on thin ice with that team anyway going forward. Because of things off the field and maybe not showing up to meetings and his attitude, it just seems like he's been getting disciplined for things happening that we don't see. And he showed up and did his job on Sunday and help lead the Bills to a win. So we'll see. We'll watch that situation going forward. I know we talked about the Giants and Patriots already in a previous episode, but just thinking of Coleman and his discipline, I forgot to talk about Abdul Carter for the Giants getting benched for the first quarter of that game against the Patriots for, again, probably missing a meeting or, something that we don't see during the practice week happened. The coach decided it's best for the team to sit this guy down and teach him a lesson. By the time he got on the field, in his own words, they were already losing 17-0. I'm not sure that he could have done much to help stop the Patriots, but him not being on the field is not helping the Giants. You don't draft a guy number 3 and have him sit on the bench. This isn't college anymore. This is the pros. You got to get your act together. You got to show up. You got to be where you're supposed to be. Be at meetings on time. Don't show up late. Don't miss buses. Don't miss flights. Whatever he did, I don't know what he did. No one's saying, which is fine. But clearly he did something that it's been going on all season, and it got to a point where, all right, you got to sit down because we can't have this kind of behavior. So Keon Coleman had that in Buffalo. Abdul Carter had it in the Giants this week. So, these guys are young, but it's time to grow up. This is pros. Let's act like a pro. And the Sunday night football between Denver and Washington came down to the last second, and if not for a great defensive play by the Broncos, the Washington Commanders probably win this game. But instead, they lost it 27-26. It's nice to see from a coaching standpoint. Again, I'll refer to the Hard Knocks in season, seeing Dan Quinn talk to the team after, saying how they found their fight and how proud he was of that. They're not giving up. They're not going to make the playoffs. It's a very disappointing season coming off the season they had last year, but they really battled a Denver team who is possibly the number one team in the AFC and one of the best defenses in the NFL. They put up 26 points against them, and Marcus Mariota did a good job. It seems like Jaden Daniels might be coming back. That's another one of those things that, why? I know he's getting paid a lot of money. I know he's a competitor, but why take hits on a dislocated elbow that's healing when you don't have to? You're not going to make the playoffs no matter what you do, even if you win out. Like, from a franchise perspective, they got to protect him because he's their future. Yes, he should get on the field and get some plays to get some positive things because he had a lot of negative things happening this year. But I don't know. From a fan's perspective, I want him healthy for next year and not like second guessing himself and feeling like, losing confidence. So if they're going to put him on the field and build his confidence, great. But if they're going to put him in the field and he's going to get his ass kicked and get hurt again, which is possible because it's football and it's a super violent game. But what's the smart move here? It's a very tough thing. And I guess much like Joe Burrow, it's tough to keep a guy who's a competitor like that and is used to winning off the field. So I get it why you want to play, but he, again, needs to be smart and protect himself and do what's best for the franchise and the team instead of, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. They get paid to play football, so they should play football. Let me be clear about that. But from a franchise perspective, you need to protect Jaden Daniels. And, part of that is getting a better offensive line and getting a better running game so he doesn't have to do so much by himself, which is in Kansas City, poor Patrick Mahomes, they're just waiting for him to work some magic in these games. And it just doesn't work. You can't just lean on one guy like that. He can't do it all. It's 11 guys on the field that have to contribute in all three aspects of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. One guy's not going to win a game. So I'll be excited to see Jaden Daniels back on the field because he's an excellent player and a lot of fun to watch. But I am concerned for his health going forward and his longevity of his career, which is, for him and for the franchise in Washington, that seems to be the most important thing right now. Denver, I'm talking about Washington, but Denver, probably the best team in the AFC right now. The thing about them that's impressive is they're winning a lot of close games, and that is going to be important come playoff time. They are coming from behind to win games, and they are holding on and making big stops at the end of games in overtime to win games. They're winning in a lot of different ways. Their offense doesn't look great. Their defense is solid and is really what they're leaning on. And the saying is defense wins championships. So right now you would say Denver is probably one of those teams that's in line to win this championship this year. And winning games like that is the kind of thing that I think makes you believe in yourself. And this team right now believes they can win any game. Doesn't matter how many points they're behind. Doesn't matter how close it is. They feel they have enough to make the stop on defense at the end of a game like they did, or make a play and score a point, get a field goal, whatever it is, and get enough points to win the game. Because remember, you only need 1 point more than the other team to win. That's exactly what they did this week. It's going to be interesting. Denver is looking really good. And again, these are character building wins, and the confidence that comes out of winning tight games like this, you feel invincible. And I think right now the Denver Broncos feel exactly like that. That's it for me rambling about week 13. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.